Hi, everybody. This is Matt Brown, and I am here with the War at Sea Fleet Command's presentation of Avalanche Press's Second World War at Sea Coral Sea. And the scenario we're going to talk through today is the Japanese strike. This is a pretty short scenario because we're going to just do an airstrike. This is fun. This is a quick way to do it, and you can see everything laid out. We're using our 1.5 module today, which is fairly new, and it's got a couple of new things in here. First of all, we're going to be doing this on our, we're calling it the Advanced Tactical Map, that works a little bit more like the Iron Bottom Sound map from South Pacific. And the reason I like this is because you can stack multiple ships in a hex, and we can see this all better. But to see the aircraft, we're going to zoom in, because the first thing that we need to do is not worry about the ships, but we need to come in and worry about the strike packages. So first thing we're going to do is, as a Japanese player, you're going to decide how you want to divide your strikes up. So there's a little technicality here in that you need to not have torpedo bombers paired up with anything else. Torpedo bombers have to go in alone, and then they can have an escort. And then the dive bombers can go in along with level bombers if they want to, but there are no level bombers here. And then they don't have, they do have an escort here, but they don't have the torpedoes. So there's going to be two strikes automatically. So we're going to take the first strike, and I'm going to take that with the torpedo planes, the Kates. So I'm going to lay my Kates out here. I'm going to grab them, bring them over, and I'm going to line up my 0 here. And then I'm going to assign the cap to that. So my cap is going to attack 2 steps and 1 step. So the way that aircraft work is that each side of this represents 1 step, and there's 2 sides. So this guy here is already flipped over. So if I go step loss here, I bring him back. Now he's full strength. This is 2 steps of aircraft, which represents about 11 to 12 aircraft. So I'm going to do step loss. So now it's about 6. Now the Japanese player has 2 different counters, but this counter here is 2 steps, and this counter here is 1 step. So they have 3 steps in total. So they're going to allocate this escort to be with this strike package. So they're going to fight first. The way we do this is we look at the fighters, the escort, and the cap. This is the cap for the fleet. This is the escort for the strike. We're going to look at these, and we're going to compare the combat amounts, and we're going to roll some dice. So the first number here is circled. That's the air-to-air combat. And so I have the highest rating there. So these are both going to be basically no modifiers between each other. So everything is rolled. This is 6. So I've got 2 dice here. So I'm going to roll them. And I need a 6 to hit. This is the 0. So here we go. So 1 dice is a 1 and a 3. So it took a little time to roll. So both of those shots on the escort fail. Now the escort is going to fire back at the cap, and the escort fires a 2 and a 1. So they both miss. And now the Wildcats here are going to fire at the strike. So I'm going to open them up and pull them apart, and I'm going to fire 3 shots here at this full 2 steps of Kates. So I'm going to fire 1, 2, 3, and I got 1 6. So when you're doing the air-to-air combat portion, a 6 equals a hit. So I'm going to take a hit off of this, and I've taken 1 step loss off of that plane. All right, so I'm going to now fire back, and there's nothing left to fire back, although it was simultaneous. So if you remember, on the other side of this, we had a 1. So we're going to go back to that. I'll leave it up for right now, but we'll take the step loss in a minute. Now this is a square. So this guy gets a little bit of a disadvantage if the fighter were attacking him. But he gets to fire back, and if he hits a 6, then he gets to take a point off on the American plane, and he didn't do that. So I'm going to rough him back up to step loss, and then we are ready now to take the second round of air-to-air combat. And in the second round of air-to-air combat, all of the cap fighters can address anything that they want. They could go back on the escort, or they can go back on the strikes. We're going to try them on the strikes. So now we have 5 dice total. So I'm going to take 3 on this one and 2 on this one. So let's roll the 3 first. There's a 1, 2, and a 3. So there's no hits. And then on the second one here, we're going to roll his second round, and he rolls 1 hit, 2 hits. That's pretty lucky. That means that he gets 2 steps off of that particular one. So we've lost 1 Kate. So now we have 1 step of Kate's coming in, and now is when we need to zoom out and actually look at our setup for the ships. Now, the way that it tells you to do this is to make sure that there's space between each ship and 1 capital ship per space. But we're going to actually try and economize space a little bit, and we'll put in each carrier, and then we'll put a cruiser around each one, because we've got that. And we'll do the same thing here. And then we'll put a picket up. And in the case of setting up ships for airstrikes, you can put 2 destroyers in a hex. So we have a pretty good little task force here. And now we're going to allocate that torpedo bomber. So the torpedo bomber here is going to go after, believe it or not, Lexington. All right. Now, it's sometimes nice to divide your force, because right now, all these ships can combine their anti-aircraft and take it at my ship, at my Kate, rather. So that's going to be a little hairy. So let's zoom in just a wee bit, and let's figure out the anti-aircraft. Just going to clear the moved markers and make sure I've got everybody here on screen. So we take all of the values that are here. So 4 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20, 14, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So 24 points of anti-aircraft that we have. Now, this is the cool thing about Americans, because the Americans get to group their anti-aircraft. The Japanese do not. The Japanese have an every man for himself philosophy at this time in the war, so they all have to shoot at just the things that are attacking them. So we've got 24 here. We're going to divide it, so it's 12, and we're going to roll many dice, and we're going to move the screen a little bit because that takes a minute to come up. That still looks good. And I'm going to roll 12. So that's all my anti-aircraft. And if I roll a 6, it's going to make that step not attack. If I roll 2 6s, it's going to destroy the step. So I rolled 12, and it's going to come up here. Unless I didn't roll it. Let's try it again. Oh, I need to actually hit the OK button, not the cancel. Oh, so look at that. I've got at least 2 6s here. So I'm going to move that over. Yeah, 2 6s. So that means that this step is destroyed, and that's it for the first attack. So the Kates and the torpedo bombers on the Lexington did not make it. All right. Now, the next attack coming, we're going to go back and we're going to do the second strike. The second strike now has 6 sets of vowels, or 6 steps of vowels, rather. Okay, so I'm going to line them up. And it had 2 steps of zeros. So my cap is going to attack the escort, and the other Wildcat is going to attack the bottom step here, or the bottom 2 steps of the vowels. So we'll start with the 0. The 0's got 4. The Wildcat's got 3. So the 0 is going to fire 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, so close, but no cigar. And now the Wildcat's going to fire 3. 1, 2, 3. Woo, that's good shooting. So we've got 1 step loss on the 0. And so I'm going to put him off to the side. And now let's do the other Wildcat against this Val. So he's going to roll 1, 2. Oh, another hit. So the Val actually takes a step loss. Well, that's pretty good shooting for the second strike. the first combat phase. Now we take the second, and I'm going to fire 3 here at this val. So I'm going to fire 1, 2, 3. I got no hits. And then I got 2 firing at this val. 1, 2. So no hits. So that's it. Wildcats are done. The zeros are done. And now it's time to take the dive bombers onto their target. And this time we're going to all go for Yorktown. All right. So we've got 5 steps bombing Yorktown. So I'm going to roll again the same anti-aircraft because it's all 24 now. So I'm going to roll multiple dice. 24 halved is 22. So I roll 12, and I've got how much here? I've got 3 6s. So one of them, one step is going to not attack. Another step is going to not attack and be lost. So now we've got 2 steps attacking Yorktown. So Yorktown is going to get some action here. So let's roll for 4 bomb hits on Yorktown. The way we do that is we open up our charts, which are here, and we find our air chart, and we're going to go up to the top and see what our modifiers are. And we've got, oops, that's takeoff and landing. Air tables, takeoff and landing. Here we go. It's over this way. There we go. So this is a dive bomber. Target location. Okay, we're going to go to damage. How about that? Preferred damage. No. That's not it. Hold on. Other. Let's see if it's on other. We got to find the table that tells us that what our modifiers are to actually hit the ships, because I don't want you just to take it on my my word. Target location, that's not it. Takeoff and landing, that's not it. Air search, it's not it. Air-to-air combat. Aircraft bombing and air-launched torpedoes halfway down the table on the right-hand side. So we roll 1 die per naval attack factor. So we have 4 naval attack factors. On a 6 or greater, we got a hit. So this is a naval attack factor is circled. Yes, it is. That's +1. And the aircraft is a dive bomber, +1. So we're going to go ahead and attack this guy, and we're going to roll 4 dice. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like we've got 3 hits. So I'm going to go over to the damage table, and in the damage table, I'm going to find bomb damage, and which we use gunnery. But every time we hit a hull hit, then we're going to add an extra hull hit because it's if it's a non-armored flight deck. And anytime we get a secondary or a primary hit, we're also going to take off a flight deck loss. So let's zoom in on Yorktown, and let's get a good picture here. All right. So first bomb, there were 3 hits. The first one is a 3. So that is a torpedo mount. There's no torpedo mount, so that goes away. The next one is a 10. A 10 is a hull, and we take 2 hulls because of that. So Yorktown, we're going to choose damage off the side here, and we're going to choose hull and hull. There you go. So there's 2 of them there. Now, if there were units in the ready box, then it's another chance for an explosion, but we don't have anything in the ready box here. So we're going to take our last damage and see what that is, and that's a 9. And 9 on the gunnery damage table is a primary. So a primary becomes a hit on the flight deck. So this is your flight deck marker here. So you can right-click on this and choose flight deck damage, and you'll now see that Yorktown can only hold 7 planes or 11 planes instead of 15. So, or 13, I guess it was a 13. So, but we could find that out actually. So we can actually check that back, and we can hold our control key, and we can go to damage and choose flight deck. Then you can see, oops, if I could control 1, it goes up to the maximum. So I'm using the keyboard command to add my shortcuts, or to add my deck counter. So there's my deck counter back. So out of all those planes, that's all that made the strike, was those 3 bombs. One of them was ineffectual. One of them did 2 points of damage, and the Yorktown is fine. So it looks like the Japanese really, really, really didn't quite make the numbers they needed to sink any ships here. That is the end of the scenario. How about that? Airstrikes go fast. So the way that it works is you line up your aircraft, you figure out which strikes they're going to be, and then you do the first strike, you compare the cap with the escort, you fight the cap versus the escort, and any other thing versus the strike package. So if you've divided it up, you can get both. And then the second round, then your cap gets to fight just the strike package, and you take your losses off of that. Then your strike package hits the anti-aircraft, and the anti-aircraft in this case was really quite devastating because it shot down 1 point and it stopped 2 points from attacking. So it was really quite the bad scene. All right, well, that's it. And I'm going to go ahead and close this up. And I really appreciate you sticking with me. We're going to try and do more short things like this. And hopefully they'll be popular and you guys can get an idea of how to play. So thanks very much.